Welcome back to Divas, Diamonds, and Dollars podcast. We empower career women, business owners, and yes, late bloomers with the tools and strategies for living a bolder, fuller life. Each week, we talk business, leadership, and personal finance. Follow us to get ahead and succeed at a higher level. Folks, we are your hosts, Larisa Troche and
I am Cecilia Benford.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that many of us became agile agents of change, if you will, during the pandemic, because we didn't have any choice, right? We did what we needed to do to stay gainfully employed or otherwise keep open the doors of our business. It was up to the powers that be to designate some businesses as essential so they could continue to operate. But, for the solopreneur or small business, it was up to the principal to redefine themselves so they could become designated as essential. Similarly, if you will, many businesses were created, huh? You do what you got to do. You lose your job, you go create a business, or otherwise expanded during the pandemic. Now, for example, my son was in Las Vegas, and, I don't know if they've ever recovered from the pandemic, honestly.
Mhm,
But,
mhm.
he worked in a sports bar, which totally relying upon the bar stool hangers on drinking beer all day. Well, during the pandemic, obviously that was a no-no. So they focused on takeout, right? So they were able to stay open and keep people employed because they were nimble and they adjusted to the change. And I just said, I don't think, well, the headlines suggest that Las Vegas has not recovered from the pandemic and, of course, about all the high prices. So, he left that former sports bar. Now he's a sous chef in Mobile. He's a sous chef for a larger casino, which I guess is actually a family of casinos. They more than one site. But anyway, they cater to the local crowd. So it's not like they're dependent upon tourism. So I think that's
Good.
representative of, people who can, I want to say, see the future. I was picturing this telescope. I don't know where that came from.
Mhm.
Uh, ah, but anyway, you gotta keep your, what's it called, ear to the ground to know what's going on. So you can, what's that word? Be bold, be strong, and be nimble, gentle persons.
Yeah, this economy, your business, it's not for the faint of heart, right? So you said it, being strong, bold, and nimble. So as an independent owner today, it's up to you to forge your own path and make the strategy call for the direction that you want to grow toward. It's so interesting. I'm just thinking about the things you read today, and I could just repeat what I just said, honestly, because you have to decide how nimble you need to be and what looks like your business lines. And so, where do we start? How about we discuss that? So, as I threw out these three words, bold, strong, and nimble. Nimble Biz embraces these key characteristics. So the first one is being bold and hopefully bold in a good way because, we got bold out there, but it's not necessarily what we want to look at, right? Just as an aside, you are the face of your business. Your team follows your lead. You're the CEO. You're the COO. You're the chief cook, bottle washer, whatever. You are the lead. So you've got to articulate your mission and vision and make sure your brand represents the best you. And sometimes, yeah, we may not be sure, but guess what? You can't be no shrinking violet if you truly want to stay in the business and grow. And so, as we talk about how do we step up and step out, let's talk about strong. When I see strong, and it's kind of interesting, we're having a discussion with some ladies about, what's good leadership, strong leadership. And, it's one of those things that we know it when we see it. We talk about it. We know what's bad, what that looks like. So we all know that you have to include strength training for your own self-care, right? We know that. But this in this case, when we're talking about strong, what we mean is you got to stick to your convictions and uphold your values as you run your business. And when I think about strength, because some people get a little confused, we have the macho strength. That's not what we're talking about, because a lot of that can be negative. Um, the strength that I look forward to when I'm looking at whoever is representing a business, I'm looking at, we're talking about their brand and, their vision. It stands out when I see, a person of character, when I see integrity, those two things, I mean, they will bear themselves out. And so this is a solid move towards what you know, what you like, and what you trust. That is my first go-to. I mean, if you start off with something crazy and, just off the wall, I'm likely not going to follow your business. All right. And so as I have thrown out the words, you think about bold and strong and character and integrity. Um, I was also reminded that these are traits that you often, for those who are on a faith journey, these are traits that you often read about. First of all, character and integrity are very big. Secondly, some of the analogies that are given often refer to athletes because we all know how athletes have to persevere, how they've got to endure, and that a lot of times things happen, whether you get hurt, whether you don't finish, in place where you wanted to. Well, you see a lot of that happens in business. What do? You get back up, you get back with it. Sometimes you have to make some changes, but the whole point is athletes are very driven to not only compete, but to succeed. And so it's the same thing that you have to do with your business. And people want to cheer businesses on, just, so that's why I use the athletic analogy because people, we all want to cheer the good guys. We always want to cheer an athlete. Hey, we want to even cheer, what was the recent Kentucky Derby? It's like somebody coming from the back and making it all the way to the front. That's you know the analogy that I see. Small jockeys, beautiful horses, so I see nimble and all that. I'm one of these people that can visualize all this kind of stuff. So what do you think, Risa?
Well, I want to walk our listeners through what it is to be nimble. So, I'm going to suggest, honestly, that we start by narrowing your focus. Now, it's easy to get caught up trying new offerings to attract more clients, but remember why and how you got into business in the first place.
Mm.
Review your core offerings to decide whether the core offering, needs to be improved or updated. Not trying to add 20 more things. Look at your core offering. That is what attracted people to your business. And then you also might want to look at whether it's time to raise your prices. That is, uh, I
Ooh.
wouldn't want to say it's number one, but it is high on the list of why businesses struggle because they're not charging enough. So don't let that be you. People will pay a premium for a premium
Mm.
service, so stay focused on what made you successful to start with and enhance it if you can, but don't stray too far from your area of genius. You had a pressing thought?
Well, I just wondered, so that's walking a fine line when you talk about the prices, because people are really afraid of
They're
prices. So
price
so
conscious
how does
today.
the business have to say why it's not only they're not just raising the price for to be raising it, they're raising it because they've thought about, that they're still going to get value, still going to provide a great product. But yeah, I think that's why people don't raise their prices because they're afraid to.
Well, that is very true, but I don't want to use the word but because again, I know what but means. That is very
Mhm.
true. And in these, I was going to say uncertain times, these expensive times, yes, you do have to be
Mhm.
careful when raising your price, but it's again, how do you articulate the value that you're providing? And as
Right.
I said, if you remember, the first part of that was you're going to update or otherwise improve your core offering. You're not just raising price because you want to raise your price.
Mhm.
You have the value to back it up. And so, we mentioned earlier, if you work on your people do business with those they know, like, and trust. And so if your know, like, trust factor is strong, your client base will stick with you, even though you may be more expensive than Joe Schmo down the street. The
Mhm.
value has to be there, though. That is always, we talk about that every sixth episode.
Mhm. Right, right, right. Exactly.
So anyway, yes, narrow your focus, and your focus is on quality, right? You're providing value. But it also may be time to improve your systems. Now, I'm not saying implement your systems. You better have some systems already. It's time to
Mhm.
improve your systems, right? So, to ensure you're not just creating another job for yourself, because that's not why we got into business, you became a multipreneur for a life of choice, aka time freedom, not because you wanted another job. So make sure your business can run independently without your hands on daily involvement. Now, and that is why I'm saying improve your systems, because systems are not one and done. You should include a review date when you create your policies and procedures to make sure you're keeping up with the times. Sometimes, first of all, it's a heavy lift to get those policies and procedures written. Um, and so it's like, okay, whoa, that's done. Cobwebs. No, no, you get not cobwebs. You must have a regular review process so that you make sure that you are keeping up with the times. You know, and frankly, I think it's easier to edit something than start from scratch. So once you've created it, you're just reviewing to ensure it's still good to go. You don't have to start, rewrite it every time. So improve your systems. And frankly, here's that other, we talked about prices. This, what else you need to be doing? You need to market to your avatar. You can't be all things to everyone, and trying to do so will spread you too thin. Nurture your niche and stay top of mind to keep them coming back again and again. Do not skimp on your marketing dollars. When things get tough, people say, oh, I'm just going to stop marketing. That is the
Mhm.
worst thing you can do.
Mhm.
You have to stay, people, first of all, we already know they have choices. You have competition. But again, you're charging a premium. So how else do you provide value in between purchases? There must be some way that you can keep in touch with your people. Is it information? Is it resources? Is it a little something extra? So just don't forget about the people who have bought. You're not always scrabbling and beating the bushes to find new. You're taking care of the people who believed in you and bought from you. You want to talk about the benchmarking?
No, you go ahead.
So, you know, if you haven't noticed, we're spelling out the word nimble. So benchmark your performance. Now, you can use KPIs standard for your industry. You can look it up. What is the KPI for
Mhm.
health and beauty? That's not a good question. You have to specify. But I'm saying there are quote unquote KPIs you can look up. If you're in business consulting, if you're in coaching, or what is a KPI? However, it's also not a bad idea to establish your own key performance indicators. We're past throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. You need to measure everything. And by everything, we're talking lead flow, conversions, customer acquisition costs, cost of goods sold, and of course, revenue, but more importantly, cash flow. So, what are the benchmarks or measurements? You can picture a yardstick, you can picture a ruler, whatever you want to call it, but how do you measure up? How do you know how well you're doing if you don't create the necessary goals to strive
Mhm.
toward? So it's critical that you benchmark your performance on the regular. And you know what else, though? You're a smart cookie. Listen to your gut. I know immediately when I did not listen to my gut, because I'll think this thought, and then I immediately go and do that thing, and that thing did not match this thought, which is the right thing I
Mm,
should have done. So listen to your gut. Your gut will not lie to you. That said, don't forget to check in with your advisors as well.
mhm,
You are the decision maker, and the buck, yes, stops with you. Still, when it's time to make a move, measure twice, cut once. Otherwise stated as do your research. And you knew I had to say it at least one time. AI can help you with the heavy lifting here on the research aspect. So review your options and make the call. At the end of the day, we want you to trust yourself, your well informed self, if I may.
I like your saying well-informed self because, the one thing that I keep running across is this danger of being two things. One, too busy. Some people they got like what, everything what you talked about. They got a good business, they intend to do so and so, but oh, guess what? My tribe of 10, okay, too many people. Maybe you should cut down, right? They want to go do something. And sometimes we're just too into being entertained, I believe. I mean, we should have the fruits of our labor, but we have to take care of business, ladies. We just got to take care of business. And maybe because we talk about advisors all the time, who's your tribe? But every now and then, and this is hard, sometimes you need to, maybe make some changes, just really sit back and be still and go through the things that Larissa is talking about. Because I think sometimes it's just hard for us to just stop the noise and really kind of go through this nimble process.
Yeah, I wanted to, well, I gave you some examples at the beginning of businesses that had pivoted. I mean, that was very narrow examples, but there's businesses all that. As a matter of fact, the other thing that came to mind besides, my son's job was Domino's. Um, Domino's is hustling because they were going down the tubes. I don't know, it was a few
Mm-hmm.
years ago. I'm so
Hmm.
bad with time. Some years ago, when they were not the most popular pizza, and maybe they're not the most popular pizza. Everyone's very particular about their pizza. But
Yes, they are.
Domino's does stand out for the different ways they try and reinvent themselves. I remember, well, they expanded their menu, they had some price. I don't know, I think that's kind of like a sales campaign. But I do remember, for example, was it 30 minutes or it's free? Or their
Mhm.
little auto robotic delivery system. And I don't know what they're doing right now because I'm trying to cut back on my pizza intake. But that is one company that stands out. And the companies that have been around the longest, I would say, you think of some big names and how they've pivoted or otherwise nimbly adjusted to the changing times. I guess that's really where I was going.
Yeah.
People forget, and I say the word forget, and maybe I knew it at some point. Amazon used to be a bookseller before it became all things to everybody.
Ugh. And they're
Um,
still expanding and doing something I saw different the other day. I'm like, what is this? But you're right. Starbucks is another one. They're
well,
making changes now.
the other thing I was going to say about everybody America Store was that they also sell cloud storage, right? And so,
Hmm.
or cloud computing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
again, you have this thought that you think about what companies do or what they are, but look at how they adjust to changing demands.
Right.
So
That's
you
it.
may not be a Fortune 500, even a Fortune 1000 company, but again, in your area of genius, how do you need to grow and be flexible? Flexible might be the wrong word, but be aware of the trends and how that might impact what your offering is. Now,
Mhm.
Starbucks, well, they have a new CEO. There was a
Mhm.
what was that word? Backlash about the direction the new CEO is going in. I'm not a
Mhm.
Starbucks person, but you drink Starbucks, do you?
Mhm.
So go ahead. What is the Starbucks change? I know they're doing some things differently. And they don't put your name on the cup anymore, right? They just write something perky.
Oh yeah, they don't do that. Oh, and they've actually reduced their stock of things that
Offerings.
they were offering because
Mm-hmm.
I went as I was traveling the other day. I went looking for a couple things and I was like, oh. As a matter of fact, I ended up not buying anything. And I even have Starbucks card that I use. I was in the airport, for example. But anyway, I know they've made some changes. They have narrowed their menu.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's the main thing that kind of stands out. I don't necessarily want to say what the product was I was going after, but yeah.
Well, the other thing is sometimes, and I'm not that I don't take I don't take my takeout that seriously. You know, the restaurants have a secret menu. So you might have been able to ask for it anyway, even though it's not on the wall menu. But
Mm,
sometimes you can ask for certain things and they'll whip it up for you. I read
that's true.
all the time about these secret menus. I'm like, how do people know about these secret menus, first of all?
Mhm.
Or is it a secret menu like for real? Or people just go in there and ask for different things and they get it. And so it's a menu. Anyway,
Right.
yeah. Let me give us our last letter of NIMBLE, which is expand your reach, gentle persons. That should, ooh, every day, all day.
So
You should,
let me segue to that, right? Because that's what these companies are doing, right?
yeah,
They want to
absolutely.
expand their reach, especially in the coffee area. Because every time I look up, somebody's putting up a coffee store.
Well, I would put up a coffee shop if, first of all, I don't drink coffee, don't drink that much tea, but I like the gathering aspect of it, where people,
Hmm.
the social aspect. So, in my vision of all the wonderful things I was ever going to create, that was actually one of them because I just like the idea of bringing people together and, being a host and taking care of
And
folks.
that's
And
what Starbucks said they wanted to do. That was their really their
yeah,
go-to. Yeah,
and
they
then
wanted
people
to.
took advantage of it, and because that became
Hmm.
America's office, and then they just stayed there all day sipping on one cold cup of coffee forever, which no
Hmm.
one was making any money. But again, you know, I can't actually remember the last time someone wanted to meet at Starbucks, but that used to be a thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
anyway, I'd be trying to meet at Pizza if that's what we were going to do. I'm just saying, me and Starbucks. I'm not a Starbucks fiend. But once again, back to expand your reach. You should always network with intention and be thoughtful as you uplift and support other women in business. Now, that is my calling to uplift and support women in business. I don't know if it's your calling, but just in case, whomever you
Definitely
work
mine.
with,
Hmm.
find those you can connect with to create synergy for referrals. We all want a referral based business, don't we? Don't we? And collaboration opportunities. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. When you find a partner to share referrals with, or otherwise, do events with, or even, what's that called? Coordinate your marketing. It's nice to have a pal, if you will. I don't know what
Hmm.
it's, I wanted to, that should have a better name, but a business pal that you guys work together. So, oh my gosh. You can at least say this because I'm getting dry now.
Staying nimble. As we bring this to a close, we want you to know it definitely lets you take advantage of trends and opportunities. And so, if you keep that in mind, what nimble must mean, you're not going to be stuck in one spot. You must be looking out. You must be taking advantage of everything we talked about. The N, the I, the M, the B, the L-E. You have to, in order to stay nimble, it's going to put you in a space where you're always going to be thinking about what else do I need to do? What else do I need to, prop up? It's going to put you thinking about the collaboration and the networking and that you always got to be aware of the trends. Hey, if people are no longer wearing a certain thing and you make designer clothes, you need to stop doing what you were doing unless you got a small, group of people who buy your products. But, one of the things that I've learned, you probably learned about doing a SWOT analysis when you were in college. And even, at some of the places that you work, depending on the kind of programs that you work where you did SWOT analysis. But I find that, those can be used in anything that we're talking about. In your business, let's say you had an event. We do that for events, do a SWOT analysis, basically what went well, what do you need to improve, and you're taking in some inputs, right, from the people. So SWOT analysis can give you clarity, certainly, can give you intel and help you on what you will do the next time. So, are you ready to level up? I hope that just the thought to me, the way when I think of being nimble, hey, who doesn't want to be nimble? Yes, you know.
Jack be nimble,
So,
Jack be quick.
yeah, right. Will. But yeah, so now you have the tools to do so with confidence. And so the Divalicious pro tip is utilize a custom CEO dashboard. Dang, doesn't that sound great? You got your own dashboard. I think that's cool. And also about the end of the month planning retreat, that's kind of, it's, you know what, I would say that's probably one, it helps you capture all of this. But it's one of those faux pas, I suppose, if you will, like when you start letting the marketing drop. Well, end of month planning retreat is also one of those things. They're really, really important. You really should not go by them because it is a tool to help you keep a close eye on, what things you um, need to do with your operations. Maybe even, hey, did you miss an opportunity? I lately have, we're starting to get into the summertime frame. There's so much out there. People are planning things, and it just might be your time to be out there networking at these places. You just never know. So, with that, as you consider keeping your coffers flowing, what's next for us, Larisa?
Next month, we have a new theme. June is home ownership month. And I tell you, I am still surprised when I hear buyers and sellers say, I didn't know that. Uh, that's why you need a realtor, first of all. So
Mhm.
join us to find out which questions you must ask when you're buying a home, and definitely what you need to know as a seller when you list your home. And of course, we invite you to stay in touch between episodes, now accepting members in my free online community. Make it, mind it, multiply it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Cheers.